Okay, well, welcome to one of the 2 Tantric weekends. In case you came here for sex, you'll be terribly disappointed because that's not what's going to be. Although, you know, I mean, sex does play a role in Tantric practices, but not the usual sex that we know. It's more like trying to unify yin and yang, or compassion and wisdom, and male and female energies together, and this you do at a very late stage of your tantric practice when you've already realized emptiness. So I think none of us is there, so like this. But why or when one is doing tantric practices? Because the problem about these practices are they how to say, they're not what they are looking to be. Okay, so Buddhism, actually, the Buddhism itself is not a devotional system. It's not a devotional system. It's also not a belief system. At the beginning, so when you study like sutras and like texts like Lamrim or the Precious Word of My Teacher, or any texts that show you how to practice meditation and how you transform your mind, like Losang texts, there it doesn't depend whether you believe or not. There it depends whether you make the experience or not. Yeah, meaning you put your whatever instructions you get there, whatever they tell you to do or how to think, if you start to put them into practice, then you will experience that something is working. Okay? So that is at the basis. Out of that, you already have trust that it works. So when then we start to do these kind of practices where you can't really experience much because it's so other from what we think and what we do, then, but your heart is open and you're ready to do them. Otherwise, you're kind of going to, you know, what is this? They said that Buddhism doesn't have a God, and now we have to make prayers to this Buddha, and why, and what, and all this, yeah? So actually, because it's called the quick path, because we take the result into the path, meaning in order to practice these things properly, like as a daily practice, or you go into retreat, and retreat, I'm not talking about a weekend, okay? A weekend is a course or is a seminar, it's not a retreat. Retreat starts 1 month and above for me, you know, where you really get used to what you're doing and you have good instructions, you read commentaries, you take the time, and you're not going work and then meditation and work and meditation. You really go into retreat. You retreat yourself from daily activities. So in order to do that, you need what is called an initiation. So that means you already need to have developed what is called the 3 principal aspects of the path, which is understanding the 4 noble truths. Yeah? Recognizing them as true, not really true from their own side, but recognizing them as conventionally true, like that there is suffering, and it's very easy to be frustrated and you know, stressed or whatever. Is that true?
Yes. Unfortunately, yes.
Can we see that life is difficult? Would you choose the life you have? With everything that goes with it, the difficult parents, the difficult children, the difficult partner, the difficult boss, the difficult work, the not enough money, the too much, how do you call them? The too much, les impôts, c'est quoi? The too much taxes and all this. You know, the metro that is being built in Tel Aviv and all this. Huh? That's the list here, exactly. So if you have nothing to put on that list, very good point, then you don't need to be here. Then you can go home. Then you have understood your life is happy, you know, but then really check, is that true? Do I not get stressed? Do I not get upset? Do I not get sad if I look at the injustice in the world? Am I not getting frightened when I hear about global warming? You know, do I not get upset when I'm stuck in a cock because of that metro that doesn't seem, yeah, whatever, that doesn't, they understood. You know, when, Yeah, so when kind of, you know, do I not get upset? Do I just say, well, at one point, you know, I'll get home. I always go home. Do we react like this? Okay, so that's the first noble truth. Your life is not as satisfying as it could be. That was the first teaching of the Buddha, a package of these 4 things. The second one he said is that the reason for that, the reason for you having a very strong yearning for being free from problems, a strong yearning for being spacious, open, full of love, full of compassion. Yeah, if you don't understand the word, just ask Nissim. You know, we're stuck with that. We all have it. This is universal. Nobody wants to suffer. Nobody wants to be harmed. It's like even the smallest insect doesn't want to be harmed. We all want to have comfort. We all want to be happy. Comfort in the sense of whatever happens, we act in a very easygoing kind of way, you know. Don't worry, be happy kind of thing. Way. We all would like to have a mind like that, but we don't. So the causes why we are stuck with this yearning for happiness, but we don't have it, is because of our previous actions, and then now, of course, Buddhism talks about past lives, which you can accept or not accept. For me, it's fine. I do accept it. If you don't accept it, I respect you just as much as if you would respect it, because this is just a view. We don't know, yeah. So when we start talking about views, we have to check, what would this view do in my life? Would it be beneficial or is it not beneficial? Is it harmful or is it not harmful? I think most of the things we think we know, we just know about them. I mean, how many of you really know that there's a North Pole? Nobody. I mean, maybe. And I have a friend who is going, Rita is going to the Antarctica. So then she will know through direct experience that there's something which has a lot of ice that we call North Pole. But all of us others, we don't really know. We know about and then we believe it. Yeah? So that's not knowing, that's believing. But then it becomes, because when we hear it often enough, it becomes the truth, you know, that it really exists. How do we know? We don't know. So the same about rebirth, yeah, that one can be reborn. But unfortunately, I cannot go into that too much because otherwise we're not getting to do the sadhana. Yeah, so why we don't have the life we want to have is because of our actions from the past, which were, some are negative, meaning harmful, some were positive, but still done with the wrong view that there's a real I, a real self, doing a real action to a real other. This is why the happiness that comes from it doesn't last. And then our reaction now to the difficult situations with negative emotions. So basically, why we are not having the fulfilled life that we all would like to have is because of our wrong views. And then out of these wrong views that things exist separate from my mind out there, really, truly, separately, we create attachment to the things that we label good, which they might be short-term good, but long-term really harmful. And then whatever we label bad, we don't want to be in contact with it. We have aversion and all that. So this is a very simple way of kind of explaining what Buddhism is all about. So then he continued to say that it's possible to eliminate all negative emotions. And now, you know, we could do a whole weekend. What is a negative emotion? A negative emotion is something that disturbs the mind and exaggerates or takes something away from what is really there. Then it becomes a negative emotion. A negative emotion that tells you a story, which when you look from the other side, like conflict, yeah? When you look from the other side, this other one has a totally different story, so it cannot be true. That is a negative emotion, right? When it makes the mind, which would be clear, seeing what is a fact, makes it unsubdued and distorted. That's a negative emotion. So the Buddha said it's possible to live or to eliminate all these negative emotions because they're based on a wrong understanding of reality. They have a cause. If they have a cause, you stop the cause, so that will be it. Then the big bulk of the Buddhist teachings is the fourth noble truth, is called the path and how one does that. That these negative emotions obviously don't disappear by themselves. I think we must have noticed, because otherwise we wouldn't have them, because we don't have them. We don't want to have them. We have them, but we don't want to have them. So there's many, many different paths. So one is the Sutric path, where you have, like, you need to practice for a long time. You sit, you think about the teachings, then you start to practice them, and then you get some experience, and slowly your negative emotions decrease, but then still they come back, and all this. So that's the common path, let's say, the Sutric path. Then there's the Tantra path, which is, once you have understood the Sutric path, I'm not saying you have accomplished it, I'm just saying, once you have understood, negative emotions are not natural. They're not a natural part of my mind. Natural meaning oneness with the mind. The same way as dirt is not oneness with the water, okay? Dirt can be taken out from the water. Yeah. So once you have understood that by nature your mind is totally pure and totally clear and totally non-suffering, that you have this potential to have limitless love, compassion, and wisdom, limitless meaning for all beings, once you have accepted that as being conventionally true, not really true, only conventionally true, then you would say, okay, I want to get out. I want to get rid of my negative emotions. We call it, I want to get out of samsara. But samsara is not a place. Samsara happens in the thoughts. Samsara happens in the emotions. Okay? And samsara happens in the dukkha, in the suffering. That many things that happen to us are not satisfying. Okay? So once you've understood that and you generated this kind of, I want to get out of here. I don't want to get out of here, meaning I don't want you, because you can also say, okay, then I shoot myself and that's it. That's not what it means, okay? Because there's rebirth, you have to come back anyway. So, but I don't want to be reborn under the control of negative emotions and karma anymore. Because we are under the control of our negative emotions. We are totally under the control of our projections that the way we see the world, this is ruling us. This is ruling our emotions. And there's nothing we can do. If you see something that somehow something in here has kind of developed the thought that this is nice, then there's already, very quickly. Yeah, I'm not saying immediately, it's nice. Saying this is nice is absolutely not a problem. But then saying this is nicer than that one, which Nissim just did, because this one is nicer than that one. For me, I have zero attachment to flowers. He's a gardener. So his mind, when he works with flowers, works differently than mine, which has some attachment. For me, this flower here, that flower there, it's okay. One can say nice or not nice, but then for us, it already goes almost into indifference. The moment we start nice, not nice, then it's already attachment and aversion. Yeah? Because we think really nice from its own side, really not nice from its own side. So that's how it is. So once you have understood that, and it's like, I talked about half an hour now, it's difficult to understand it. You need to study this quite a number of years and study in a very profound way in order to see it as relatively true. And you have understood, I have a potential to have limitless love. I have a potential to have limitless wisdom. I have a potential to have limitless happiness. But not kind of hedonistic happiness that is depending on having the right flowers in front of you, but this kind of eudaimonic, what is eudaimonic happiness, I think. Also psychology talks about this. Happiness that comes from knowing what is a fact, happiness that comes from behaving in the right way so you don't have to be sorry. Happiness that comes from being connected in a good way with other people. That is eudaimonic happiness. And this is what we want to attain, because that one is not depending on outside things, that you can develop. And this is what we want to develop in Buddhism. Okay? So you're fed up being reborn under the control of negative emotions and karma, and you understand the main cause for that, which is that your mind projects real existence into whatever it perceives, and in a person, like there's a real me, there's a real self, or there's real findable flowers in the flowers, kind of having to understand, yes, I project this, but if I look for the flower, I can't find it. I only find parts of flower. But I don't find an essence of flower. I don't find a real flower. And the same goes for us, for the self, for the me, for the I. Yeah, we have a conventional I, which is, you know, the label we give to this body and the mind, same as we give to these things here, the label flower. But with the flower we understand. With the I, because it's very feelable, we don't understand immediately. So you need to, in order to practice Tantra also, this is an introduction, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, you don't need to go home, okay? Because this is just an introduction, but I'm telling you to practice this properly, this is what you need. A good understanding, I don't want to be reborn under the control of karma and delusions. I need to understand emptiness. I need to understand this lack of real, true existence that my mind projects. And why? Because I want to be of benefit to all sentient beings. That's what is called bodhicitta. And being of benefit to them, not as a social worker, but being of benefit to them in order to also show them, or being able to lead them to that state which is free from all suffering. Once you have this faith and this trust, then you can go ahead and do these things. If you don't have it, you can still go ahead and do these things, but it won't work that much. You see, because as I'm saying, it's so totally other, because we go into the result. And because this result, which is emptiness, is ultimate truth, has no function, but ultimate truth goes together with conventional truth, so then we have these strange images, which are light bodies, which are bodies which is caused, they have compassion, and not us as attachment, we want existence. Yeah? For them, they take on a body so that we can at least have some form that we can use as a basis to visualize, that's why. Why these forms, why these colors? Because with tantric practices you try to go beyond concepts. So that's why you use symbols, you use colors, and you use other things. So a very good explanation of what I heard, I think the best in very short what Tantra is like Dzongsa Khyentse Rinpoche, who says, our body and mind are like a clarinet who have been lying in kind of very dirty old water for a few years, you know, like the clarinet. So the clarinet is, and people stepping on it, and you know, maybe even a cow trying to chew it up because she was drinking or something like that for years. So the clarinet is full of mud, is dirty, is dusty, maybe distorted. This is our body and mind now. We don't use it for what it's for. Our body and mind, we use it in order to fulfill the happiness of one person, which is me, which is I. If you have children, okay, maybe also your children. But then it's pretty much finished, isn't it? Where you would give up your life. Where you would spend a lot of money. Or what do you think? Yeah? So this is basically the meaning of life for ordinary beings, is to make me happy, one person. And there's so many out there. Yeah? There's so many out there. So by understanding that, by seeing that, one thinks, one thing is, for my happiness, I am totally depending on so many other beings to fulfill their jobs. Just that. You know, all your clothes you're wearing, the glasses I'm wearing, like the shoes, what we're sitting in, the houses, the air condition, the texts, the paper, the food, everything we need only to survive comes from somebody else. Do we realize that? So then the meaning of life is to kind of participate in that, or to repay that kindness, even though we don't know who these people are, and to be kind to them, not directly to them, but to be kind to them. And this is why we say, as long as I'm just deluded as anybody else, as long as I don't know how to get out of this mess here. In German we say Schlamassel, but I think it's not, for you it's a person, isn't it? The Schlamassel is a person. In German, Schlamassel is a situation. A pretty hopeless and balagan situation is a Schlamassel in German. Huh?
Schlamassel doesn't have luck.
A person who doesn't have luck.
Ale, okay. A Schlamassel is a huh?
Schlimm Glück.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, a Schlamassel is just is like a balagan, basically. So we want to get out. But then not just for ourselves, but in order to lead everybody out as well. And then one would see that with these practices, where we always, the main point in these practices is you dissolve ordinary appearance. You go into emptiness, and after having made the preparations, then you arise in the form of a fully awakened being, or as a Buddha, okay? And for that, as I'm saying, you need initiation, meaning it's not so much, the ceremony of the initiation. It's kind of, from your side, you need to know, yes, I know the Four Noble Truths. Yes, I want to get out of samsara. Yes, I want to be of benefit to all sentient beings. Yes, I want to clean that clarinet so I can play music with it. Yeah? Because we don't play good music with our body and mind at the moment. Yeah? We're just taking and we're destroying the planet. So that's not what our life actually should be for. So a clarinet is there to make very nice music. So when we do these visualizations, and when we say these mantras, and when we dissolve everything into emptiness, it's like clearing the clarinet. So that slowly, we clean the mind, and then the body becomes also more flexible and maybe more healthier, because in order to practice this path, it's good to be healthy. Yeah, because I'm not saying it's impossible when you're sick, but it makes it very, very difficult. Yeah. So basically, I mean, this is what Tantra is all about. So even though, so there's different classes of Tantra. So at the one we're doing here is the lower classes of Tantra, where you have a Buddha in front. And I know that sounds very theistic, like we make prayers to that Buddha, we ask for inspiration, we ask for things and all that. So that sounds as if there's a separate Buddha from our own mind existing somewhere really out there. We need it at the beginning as a support, because otherwise it's not going to work. And then when we do these practices with these outside Buddhas, maybe then our own inner Buddha will wake up, maybe. Yeah. If you don't have contact to your own inner guru, if you do not really kind of strong confidence that by nature you are pure, and you go into this self-pity, poor me kind of thing all the time, and always complaining about things and not seeing emptiness and not seeing causes and conditions, but always projecting outside is their fault, it's not going to work, even if you do highest yoga tantra. Yeah. So by taking the outside Buddha, visualizing the outside Buddha, something kind of transforms in our mind, and it dissolves, or it lessens or it weakens the ordinary view that we have of who we are, what we are, and what other people are. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. Then as you go, when you get familiar with that, because this is how we start, and you start to get familiar with these practices, you start to get familiar with the sadhana, they're more or less all built up in the same way. It's like a recipe, first you do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this. But then you have short ones like this, or you have long ones, which is almost a book like that. Also Kriya Tantra. Yeah? If you do newness, for example, the sadhana is very long. It takes 3 hours to recite it, with all the prostrations and the mantras and all this. Yeah? Whereas this one, if you just go through it, and you do 21 mantras, then it's a Chenresic practice. If you do, then it takes, 10 minutes or something, But you can spend a lot of time on it if you meditate on these different facts, on these different parts. So once you are familiar with this and you start to feel the effect, and you start to, because what you are developing in the lower classes of Tantra is what is called divine pride or clear appearance. So when we talk about meditation, for those people who meditate a lot, like you said, you're going to Tovana and all this. So in meditation, there's two kinds of meditations. Yeah, we can maybe also turn it down a little bit. So instead of getting dressed, maybe
It's good.
it's good for you. Yeah. Can I have a blanket also, please? Huh? Huh?
Keeps people awake.
Keeps people awake. May I have a blanket also? Because I think it's really cold. So
It's in the right color, almost.
anyway, so we leave it. It will keep people awake. It also kind of destroys the planet a bit, you know. Whatever we have here in terms of cold is going out in terms of hot. So I don't know, you know. So I'm going back to the country where there's no air condition. We have 36 degrees. There's no air condition. Everybody is hot, but then they're just hot. Because there's no possibility to do anything about it. So nobody goes like, oh, you know, it's just hot. So I really think that, anyway, let's go back to Tantra. Okay, so then something starts to, when you visualize yourself as that deity. So in meditation you have two kinds of meditation. One is called vipassana, and the other one is called shamatha. So vipassana is clear seeing, and shamatha is like a mind that is totally stable, like mental ruhiges verweilen, like staying with the object in a very simple way. So by visualizing yourself as the deity and going through all the features, so you need to know the form. This is why you have a picture there. And you have a picture here also. All you need to do is put a blue color and then it's fine. But it's three-dimensional and it's made out of light. Okay? So so by trying to hold this visualization of you as the deity, one thing is you see things as they are, clearly seeing, because we would be Buddhas, we just don't know it. Okay? So you actually practice vipassana also by going through all the details. Then by trying to hold it with a quiet, you know, trying to hold the object of you as the Buddha, that is called shamatha. So you actually practice both at the same time. On top of it, because you know that this Buddha here has been produced by the mind, you also know that it's just a projection. You also know that it doesn't exist from its own side. Now the problem is that when you start opening your eyes again and you see your form or you feel your form, you think, this is really existing. This is just as not really existing as the Buddha is not really existing, but it's just a projection of the mind. So then this is the problem that happens to many people, that they go, yeah, I visualize the Buddha, he's not real, and but I am real here, and all this. It's the other way around. The Buddha is realer than we are. Yeah. But it's all about experience. So talking too much about it is not really helping. But once you have learned these techniques, seeing, you know, and they call it divine pride, or having clear appearance of you as the medicine Buddha or Chenresig or Manjushri or Tara or whatever, then you do what is called highest yoga tantra. Then you have no more front generation. Then what happens? You start the session, you dissolve everything. At the beginning of the session, you dissolve everything into emptiness, then you rise as that particular deity, and then you start to work with your energy system, with your channels and your other things. Yeah, but anyway, this is not what we're doing here because it's just an introduction. So this is why you go into steps. But a good way to jump into highest yoga tantra is really to get really familiar with these things first. Because otherwise, because it's so other of what we think, and it is to break our view of that what I see is really real, then it can become very confusing. Also, if you start to fiddle around with your channels and chakras and stuff, and you don't really know about emptiness, and you're confused enough already, You can go into a state where you think you're enlightened, but you're actually worse off than you were not working with these things. I'm not joking because I've seen it. Especially in India, when people come already kind of, half traumatized and thinking that I do spiritual practice, I go to India, that will sort out my problem. Then they start taking drugs, and then they start kind of maybe go to some guru who is using drugs, and then they start to really, it's easy to fiddle around with the channels and with the energies in the channels if you have some kind of concentration. It's not so difficult. Yeah, it's just practice, that's all. And then the mind can go totally off. And then they have to be flown home, and then Nachi alone is taking care of them. Yeah, he's specialized in these cases. Yeah, and then we call it, when spiritual experiences really go totally not where they should go. So in order to do these practices also, you have to be quite stable. It's okay. I mean, what we do here, nothing can happen, don't worry. We don't have to call Nachi in the evening. But I wanted to a little bit just explain what it is, yeah. Although there is no God in Buddhism, we take the enlightened Buddha as a basis, and we practice devotion. Because why? Because we want to attain the same state, okay? Like we need to be attracted by that state. So many more things could be said about Tantra, but I think we'll do the sadhana now once, because otherwise it's just, these things, you have to do them. Otherwise you're talking and talking and talking and talking about the medicine that you should actually swallow, and then you think you're going to get healthy. Then you say, oh, I'll swallow it while I know everything about it. Well, then maybe you're dead in the meantime, And whether this medicine works or not, you will only recognize when you swallow it. Even you know all the details about the medicine. So Tantra is not so much something to be talked about. Something is something to be done, yeah. And then you have resistance coming up, and you have kind of I had at the beginning, I was going, what on earth is this? They said there is no God in Buddhism and all this and that. I had huge aversion towards it, but then because I became a nun quite early, I had no choice. I had to go to the pujas. I had to do these practices because they're part of it. I was like, especially in the pujas, I was sitting, and then the Tibetans, of course, they can't sing. I don't know if any of you have been sitting in a pujas with Tibetans at Tushita. So anyway, and then maybe after 2-3 years, sadhanas I like doing. This is okay. Pujas I thought like totally useless, but sadhanas it was. No, also not at the beginning, because I thought like, this is really strange, but it's okay if you think like this, okay? So, but then because I had to continue, then all of a sudden I've noticed that it works, so then the trust and the faith kind of starts to increase only as you go along. So at the beginning you need to have some kind of faith in order to do it, because otherwise you don't do it. If somebody gives you some medicine, you need to have some faith that this is going to work, even though you have zero idea whether it's going to work or not. It might even damage you. You don't know, yeah? So you need to trust. This is why these first steps, seeing that, having made an experience that the Buddha's teachings, for me, are valid. Not true, but valid. Valid in terms of I can decrease my negative emotions. Valid in terms of I can bring up my self-confidence, not arrogance, but a very open, spacious self-confidence that also allows other people to be the way they are. Okay, not needing to change everything all the time. Yeah, that's the basis. That is then when we don't understand these things, we have to have faith and trust that this could work, and then we do it, and then we take it. Yeah. Okay? Okay, so maybe then we'll, in the lunch break, the benefits of Medicine Buddha practice and the benefits of Medicine Buddha mantra, why don't you read it in the lunch break? Yeah, because so we don't have to, because we have very little time, because I do want to do the sadhana with you, not just explaining what it is, because as I said, then we talk about the medicine that you will never even swallow, because you will not start this alone. You need a group to start this. Yeah. So this time today we do Medicine Buddha. It's good because full moon. So and already now we're not doing it for ourselves only, so then that's why all the projects, all the people on the list, then afterwards we already have one list that we started when we did the Tara night. So we add it, we put it on the altar. So you think, you know, especially when somebody is sick or dying, you can't help. Have you ever been in a situation like this?
Yes.
Huh? Where you feel totally, utterly useless. And what does it help the dying or the sick person when you feel so totally, utterly useless and low in self-control? What does it help the other person? It makes them feel worse, because they feel guilty about making you feel like this. And on top of it, we can't do anything because we don't have the confidence to do anything. We become somebody else, somebody tense, somebody closed, somebody frightened, somebody who wants to run away, yeah, like this. So doing these practices, you always have access to them. And when you're familiar with them, it could well be that it opens you up again by seeing, yes, I am useless, but at least I can be present. And presence with an open heart, when you are with sick or dying people, I tell you, this is the best tool if you want to do like accompanying dying people or whatever, is your presence. And acknowledging that you're useless because the person is dying, but you don't have to feel bad about it. And then something connects. Your open heart with the potential of the open heart of the sick person, of the dying person, connects. And then it's like, you know, these science fiction movies, or, you know, like when people connect, sometimes you see kind of two energy kind of like this, and then it becomes something very inspiring, very quiet, and very okay, that the person is sick or that the person is dying. Okay? Okay, so I don't know, you know, you don't have to hold up your hand. Some of you, I don't know, maybe you know all this and maybe you know more about tantric practices, but I just don't know you, so I don't know. So I'll just do as if everybody knows what this is all about, and we'll just go ahead. Instead, in case this is the first time, don't be afraid, nothing will happen to you, you know. If you are a very devout Jewish practitioner, then I don't know whether you should do this or not. Not because of the Buddha, because the Buddha, he doesn't care. Buddha is happy when people are happy and do something that is really helpful. But because of you, then maybe thinking that you're doing the wrong thing, you know, in connection with what you believe in. So you'll have to find out. If in the middle of the sadhana you kind of go like, oh no, this is really not what I wanted, well then just get up and leave. It's fine. It's absolutely not a problem. It's okay. Because it's maybe not what you expected. We're not going to give you methods about how to deal with your depression and your anger and your impatience and all this. This is in other courses. This is different. Yeah, this is how to do these practices. Okay? Then as it comes to the absorption of the Buddha, there's a moment where the blue medicine Buddha absorbs into you. If you go like, no, thank you, and then don't. Don't feel forced to do anything that what I'm leading or what it says. Feel free to just, you know, same way you go to there's a big buffet, everything is free. Don't take everything because it's free, but you don't really want it. That would be stupid, you know, just because it's free. But maybe try, and then, you know, be your own master here. You know, make your own decisions, whether you want to do that or not. I don't know what the description was on the website, but as I also found out, usually people don't read the description, so no matter how much we explain, it's not going to be this and this and this, but it will be that and that and that. No matter how much we explain. They don't read it, so then whatever. But anyway, as I said, feel free if it's not what you wanted. And when the medicine Buddha absorbs into you and you want to do it, by all means do. But then he comes back out on the crown of your head. If you don't have initiation, then do not visualize yourself as the Buddha, they say. If you see yourself spontaneously as the Buddha, almost like without any effort, I would say, don't fight it, because that's what we all want to do, you know. So that means you have imprints from previous lives where you've done these practices and the memory is just coming back like a song that you knew as a child or a poem or something, and you forgot about it, but the moment you hear the first things, boom, it all comes back. So it's okay. But if it feels like an effort to do that, then please don't, because in general you need initiation for that. But we're all allowed in a way to see ourselves as Buddhas because we are Buddhas. We just don't know it. And this is Losang Palmo also in her video about, I think, the nature of the mind, or was it 6 perfections? I can't remember. Maybe nature of the mind, because somebody is asking, like, well, these tantric practices, it doesn't work and all this. And she says, yes, of course it doesn't work, because we do it the wrong way around. So you're sitting here thinking that you're Fred Smith, and you're going, Om Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum, Mani Padme Hum. It's the mantra of the Buddha of compassion. Yeah, so you're going like this, and you say, I visualize myself as Chenresig, the Buddha of compassion, but actually I'm Fred Smith. And she said, this is the fundamental mistake that we're making. We think we're faking to be the Buddha, and we think that, in my case, I'm Losang, but it's the other way around. I am faking to be Losang, but actually we would all be Buddhas. Because Buddhism is not tied to, being a Buddha is not tied to Buddhism. Being a Buddha would be our natural state. A clean mind, having gotten rid of all negative emotions with the root, which is wrong views about reality. We would all become scientists who see quantum physics and understand it directly. Seeing there is only possibilities, and whatever my mind is doing with this possibility, this is what it becomes. This is what scientists say when it's material things. They don't talk like this about the mind. They still don't know what the mind is. They still haven't agreed on what the mind is. Okay? So we'll go through the sadhana. Instead of reciting the names 7 times, we'll recite them in the first time now 3 times, okay? And then I'll give you some time for question and answers before the lunch break. All right? So we won't make it too long. It's just a kind of trial, and then in the afternoon, if we have time to do the sadhana twice, we do it twice. I don't know. We'll see. If not, we'll do it once, and then again you can ask questions.